he can't just simply coast on autopilot and just rely on his riot police and secret policemen to keep the population in line. He actually has to exert himself a little bit.
President Putin has been embarking on a tour of Russia, visiting 6 cities in less than 3 weeks. It's evidence of the pressure he's under as the war with Ukraine is starting to affect the lives of ordinary Russians. In the last 24 hours, Ukraine managed to hit the Russian Black Sea port of Novorossiysk. It's a major grain terminal and the last Russian Black Sea sanctuary. Mark Galeotti is the Russia analyst, founder of Mayak Intelligence, our great Russia expert, really, in so many respects. We can speak to him now. Morning, Mark.
Morning.
How worried is Putin about the war, the failure of the war and its impact on his government?
I mean, I would say that he is certainly concerned enough to have been sort of winkled out of his palaces and so forth. Because after all, he's got elections coming up next month, and although the elections are going to be rigged, if they have to rig it too much, then that becomes dangerous for the Kremlin. So, we are seeing him doing this unprecedented tour. He's even now, for the very first time, visited the Kuril Islands, way over to the east, close to Japan. So I think he's wary. He's aware that Russians themselves have felt the war coming home to them with all these petrol shortages and the like, and that he can't just simply coast on autopilot and just rely on his riot police and secret policemen to keep the population in line. He actually has to exert himself a little bit.
And then we see an example like Ukraine hitting Novorossiysk, a big Russian hub on the Black Sea. The last 6 months has been an example of Ukraine striking back at Russia in a way that people might start feeling it in the country.
Exactly. And I think in some ways, precisely what the Ukrainians seem to be doing is cycling through a series of different targets. They were hitting oil and gas infrastructure, then they were hitting oil refineries, then they were hitting the warehouses and logistics hubs of the online marketplace Wildberries, often called Russia's Amazon. Now they're once again looking at hitting ports. And I think the key point is to, A, keep the Russians guessing, but also to stop them getting used to any of these attacks. They want to ensure that the new normal is one of continued uncertainty.
But does discontent ever mean anything in real terms? Because we talk about it all the time, Mark, and the election's going to be rigged. He is an authoritarian with total power. Can discontent ever flower into anything meaningful?
Well, what it acts is more as a kind of constraint on the Kremlin. I mean, for example, we know that a lot of generals have wanted there to be another wave of mobilization of reservists, rather than just simply relying on whoever is willing to volunteer in return for a huge payout. So they, for a long time, have said, look, we could really do amazing things on the battlefield with another 300 or whatever thousand soldiers. Putin has held back, precisely because the one time he did try mobilization, back in autumn of 2022, it was massively politically disruptive.
Yeah.
So he may be willing to do it again after the elections. But the point is, we must remember that the largest single consumer of polling data in Russia is the Kremlin. Because an authoritarian regime, in a way, it can ride roughshod over the wishes of its people up to a point, but when that point is reached, you don't just simply lose an election, you may well find yourself hanging from a lamppost.
That's such a good point.
So given that Putin has seen both East Germany and the Soviet Union collapse around him, he's very wary, I think, of pushing Russia to that stage.
Yeah, such a good point there. Before you go, we talked about the migrant crisis at Ceuta. I want to ask you, 'cause this feels very plausible to me, Russia being behind the online encouragement of mass numbers of migrants to cross into that exclave of Spain in Morocco. As a piece of disruption, it makes a lot of sense. The EU starts to wobble, everyone shouts at one another. Is this how a Cold War is fought? Russia gets in on that, it exacerbates the tension, it spreads misinformation. Is that what a Russian external spying operation would be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the Russians, they certainly were not behind this mass movement of migration, but absolutely they were going to jump on it enthusiastically because this allows them to play in European information space. Because I think this is the thing, we've seen this time and time again. The Russians can't initiate these kind of big fault line issues for us. But as soon as the fault line is there, they will be taking their informational crowbar and trying to open it up as much as possible.
So interesting. Mark, always love speaking to you. Thanks for joining us. That's Mark Galeotti there, the Russia analyst and founder of Mayak Intelligence.